What are you at, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Lycos, and in this video we're going to be continuing on with our No Man's Sky New Start playthrough. And our main focus in this video is going to be to find a Sentinel ship, and in the process we're going to be getting some really good upgrades to make us much better at combat. If you guys find this video useful, it would be awesome if you'd hit that subscribe button. And now let's get right into the video. So starting off, we're going to want to get ourselves a few different upgrades. So we're going to go to the anomaly first and purchase some blueprints for some upgrades. Our main focus is getting a good weapon for our multi-tool. I'm going to be picking the pulse spitter because that's my personal favorite, but there are other really good weapons that you can choose from, such as the scatter blaster, which is a shotgun for your multi-tool, which is an incredibly powerful weapon as well. The pulse spitter is more of a rapid fire weapon, which is definitely more my style. Now we're going to head over to a space station. I'm going to pick up a new multi-tool because the one that we start with is not great. It doesn't have much in the way of space in order to install the upgrades that we're going to want to install. So I found this multi-tool on a space station. It's a decent multi-tool, nothing amazing, but it's definitely more than sufficient for what we're going to need it for. You can get multi-tools that are much more powerful than this one, but even with this multi-tool, once we have our upgrades installed, it'll be powerful enough to take on any threat in the game. So now we're just going to install our pulse spitter and the other upgrade blueprints that we picked up on the anomaly. All of these upgrades take pretty basic materials. I'm going to buy most of them off of either the galactic trade or pilots that are on the space stations. The only thing that I wasn't able to buy was the deuterium, but this was actually pretty easy to get because you can refine tritium and dihydrogen into deuterium using a medium refiner. So we're going to install all of these upgrades, and then we're going to get more upgrades on the space station from the technology vendors. I'm going to buy 3 S-Class upgrades for the pulse spitter, and we're going to install that onto our multi-tool as well. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you're installing any upgrades is that you want to install upgrades of the same type next to each other. So for instance, if you have upgrades that are enhancing your pulse spitter, you want to place them next to each other or next to the pulse spitter. This will actually give your upgrades a bonus, and you will know when they have a bonus because there will be an outline around the upgrade. And from the exosuit technology vendor, I'm also going to buy 3 S-Class shield upgrades. For these kind of upgrades that you get from the technology vendors, make sure that you don't install any more than 3, because if you install any more than 3, it will actually break all of your upgrades of that type. Now this is probably overkill, but I was able to farm a lot of nanites from the curious deposits in the last video, so we've got lots of nanites to spare, and once we have these upgrades, we're going to be prepared for any sort of combat in the game. Next up, we're going to need to find ourselves a dissonance system. That's where you're going to find your sentinel ships. These are pretty common. You're just going to look on your galactic map and you'll see in the description of the system whether it's a dissonant system or not. So we're going to warp there, and then once we get into the system, we're going to be looking for a planet that says dissonance detected. Now here we're going to be looking for sentinels. Specifically, we want to be looking for these types of sentinels here. You can actually fly around your ship and find these pretty easily. Once you attack them, you're going to get the attention of other corrupted sentinels. Now the reason why we got so many combat upgrades is so that we can take on these sentinels. Can run away from these guys and escape them pretty easily, but you can also take on wave after wave if you want. And if you finish all of the waves, the game will show you where you can find a crashed sentinel ship. But we're going to be using a different method to find our sentinel ship. We're mostly just going to be searching for these kind of sentinels here. We're going to farm these guys to get the mirrors that they drop, but most importantly, we're looking for a rare drop, which is an echolocator. Finding the echolocator is the best way to find sentinel ships in my opinion, because it allows you to farm the sentinel ships over and over again. And also, as a new player, we're going to be able to get a few extra things as well. Now we're going to activate the echolocator, and it's going to send us to a location of a little camp. There we're going to find a terminal. If you interact with that terminal, you're going to have to do a little puzzle, but once that's done, you can do 2 different things. You can unlock the multi-tool case that's nearby. These can contain an excellent multi-tool. If you can get one of these as an S-Class multi-tool, they're some of the most powerful multi-tools in the game. Unfortunately, I got a C-Class here, but if you can get a higher class multi-tool, This is an excellent multi-tool. You need to repair the multi-tool, but you're only going to need stuff that you can find on these types of planets, so they're actually pretty easy to repair. Now, the other thing that we can do at the terminal is to locate a dissonant spike, and that's going to show you exactly where you can find a crashed Sentinel ship. Oh, and since this is our first time activating one of these terminals, we're also going to get a really cool cosmetic skin for our jetpack. Now before I leave here, I'm going to put down a base. This will actually allow us to farm Sentinel ships on this planet, because after we get our first Sentinel ship, we can come back here, use the terminal again to find another Sentinel ship. So once I put down a little outpost with a teleporter, then we're going to jump into our ship and head over to the crashed Sentinel ship. So now that we've made it to our crashed Sentinel ship, this is actually a pretty rare one to find. It's the most basic Sentinel ship that you can find. I kinda like this one, but I will admit that it's definitely not as cool as most of the Sentinel ships. Chances are the Sentinel ship that you will find will be bigger and will look quite a bit more impressive than this one. But for now, we're going to take what we can get and repair this Sentinel ship. There's going to be a few things that we can take off of the ship. The most important thing for right now is the brain, and in order to repair the ship, we're going to need the mirrors that we got earlier. We're also going to need radiant shards, which can be found all over the planet. And then we're going to need to use the brain in order to get the last piece that we need. So we're just going to fly over there, get the brain that we need, come back, and then we can use all of the items to repair our ship. And if you really like the look of your Sentinel ship, you can actually go back to the outpost that we made at that little camp, use the terminal again, and then find another one of these ships. Now, every ship that you find on this planet is going to look the same as the first one that you found. There's only one type of Sentinel ship per system. So if you want to find a different looking Sentinel ship, you're going to need to go to another system. But if you really like the look of the Sentinel ship and you want to try and farm it for a little while in order to get a higher class, just head back to the camp and you can keep farming these for a while. Now, another reason to farm these ships is that if we don't want to keep them, we can actually just head up to a space station and then scrap them to get components worth a lot of units. All of these Sentinel ships, the components in them are worth a ton of units. So farming these Sentinel ships, not only are you finding some of the best performing and best looking ships in the game, but then you can also scrap the ones that you don't want for a ton of units. Before you know it, you're going to have hundreds of millions of units just from farming Sentinel ships. In the next video, we're going to be turning one of our ships into a powerful combat ship. I'm probably going to see if I can get my first freighter, and also I'm still looking for an amazing planet to start base building. Hope you guys got some useful information out of this video. Hit that like button if you want to help out the video. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, stay where you're at, and I'll come where you're to. Later, everyone.